Part two. Okay, so the funny part about why the video camera cut earlier was actually because like Spirit wanted me to like do the full message and then just kind of give you the overview of like what the cards, because it's not like so important that I'm like live, but it's like more that I just do them inside. So anyways, there are two timelines. I'm going to tell you about the base energy. So the first thing that we pulled out was like the first card that came out was the Two of Swords, the Two of Cups. So we're going to be talking about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and what the frequency of the Gemini full moon is doing. There's also low vibration, high vibration. When we say low vibration and high vibration, I just mean like there's a karmic timeline and then there's a divine timeline. So I'll review for the divine timeline, for the divine feminine in the divine timeline for the Gemini full moon. The frequency would have been your journey with your divine masculine was non-visible. Like the evolution of that divine partnership was not visible to you at the point in which you were being called to like connect. Two of Cups, right? At the point in which you were like being called to like be like, okay, we're in this thing, we're doing this thing. You get what I'm saying? So the divine feminine at this time is if you're in the divine path, you were being called to recognize that you were going to have to build something based on the primordial feeling, not by your sight alone, because it was going to be a transformation. Again, we're coming from the dark age, patriarchy, age of like Pisces, all of these imbalances in terms of how we split up equal give and take. And so for the masculine, they suffer tremendously because we're going to have to bridge the gap of like what we made the male gender out to be and the amount that we put in this like gender in general. So for men global, but also just for masculine frequencies in general within all of us, there was always going to have to be that rectifying. So if there are divine partners and there's a divine and a karmic timeline for any and every person, and for your divine feminine and divine masculine. So in this sense, it's like, in order for any masculine to get to a divine frequency, they were going to have to do the purging of the toxicity of the low vibration of the whatever. So that's why for someone like me, if you take me, like when I met my husband, it was like who he is in 2025 was not visible. It's like you can't even get to this vision because it would just be all the millions of choices you've made in each moment to like carve your path to where you are. Again, we bring it back to like the overview of this. This is like the prayer of it all, the journey, right? Like, so this is why I'm saying it's like you had to, I feel like the root is, it's like the divine feminine had a prayer, right? In the beginning when it was like coming to like trying to get connected to this energy. It's like, I just pray that this is what it is. And that's all I was living on a true prayer when I first met my partner, because it's like, not that I even had like wedding, marriage, long-term, anything really planned out. You didn't even have to have that when we first met, but it was the prayer that set us on the journey to fulfillment. So that's the higher timeline of what's happening here. Crossing it, however, would be the divine masculine, right? So here's the divine feminine who's like, what God's asking of me is to believe without sight. Believe that you, the feeling, because what was clarifying it was the Two of Cups. So believe that this is there without evidence of them being there physically. Because the issue with the Tree of Life is that when we're bringing things down from Tethered into Malkuth, when things are now in the third dimensional realm, it's like the last and most delayed. So for me, for example, like I speak in prophecy, obviously I do the work that I do. It's deeply visionary, it's deeply like future oriented, it's deeply prophetic. So for a lot of the guys, like third dimensionally, like I don't know what you girls think about me third dimension. I can't prove how many of these videos, when you watch them, what you do. I can't prove any. I don't even know how much in real time people have like interacted with me. I do only really work with like energetics and like people's higher selves. So for me, that's the thing that I'm always dealing with, is like when I'm having to navigate approaching people, because I'm like, I'm talking to your higher self. I have to also give time for the earth to like meet what the energetics are, right? Because so that was an exercise in patience, again, Sagittarius season for the divine feminine, right? So that's what you're gonna be asked to do, is like, can you strengthen the strength of your feeling? Because the reason you're being initiated as a feminine principle, which is in all of us, to do this is because like strengthening your feelings of the feminine energy is important, because it's kind of your creative force. It's like what drives like your ability to like create universes and build worlds, create life, if you will. So you have to really be connected to the feeling of something before, whatever. I mean, for example, just take babies. All babies are born through like an orgasmic feeling, right? Essentially, somebody's nutting, somebody's doing it, you know what I mean? So, we need to connect in that way. Now, in terms of the divine masculine, this is the journey that you were going to go on. Whether if you're in the divine timeline, which we're starting with, for you, it was going to be about having to stop this Three of Swords, this painful dynamic, this painful paradigm where it's like, you are going to have to learn to rely on the truth of your spirit. Because again, the problem with the patriarchy is like masculines were doing the feminine principle as well. They're doing both. So the issue is like y'all were going and creating what you wanted. But the thing is, you thought that feminines just create whatever they want. And that's not how it goes. the feminine principle is like a deep connection to the highest power. So they're actually on a side. Like for me, when I tell you guys, this is like what I built Tethered Studios off of. It's like, this is all loaned. This is all borrowed stuff. This is not like originating with me. These are things that my creator has offered through me because I'm a bad bitch, because they love how it would be expressed through me. But I think the problem with masculine frequencies is they think when they try to attempt to do the feminine frequency thing, they're always like, let's just make it happen. I'm going to make a great genius plan. And it's usually a horrible plan, right? And so the issue with the healing, the patriarchy healing, this is that like, whether you're divine or karmic in your masculinity, and this goes for all of us, you were going to have to go through a certain level of healing, putting to rest the old, right? To see how there's like, and it's a tight space. Like, I feel like that's why, again, 2025, like this is what the frequency would have been. You probably, if your feminine was like, I'm having to believe in stuff that is not showing up. I'm having to believe in people's potential. I'm having to send up prayers that my partners, the people that are supposed to be in my path, the things that are supposed to be my counterparts in this life, are on a journey to me that I can't see while they were simultaneously healing. So like, again, this is very individual. This is very like hermited energy. This is also like trying to the higher cosmos are also trying to get people to strengthen their belief in non-third dimensional metaphysical phenomena. And so the only way to do that is to send us all through this year where it's like we didn't get anything third dimensionally that maybe we wanted or were trying for. Because I genuinely believe all the masculines are on this arc of healing, even if it's like, you know, you loop and you circle and you do the thing. And it just has to do with just the fact that we have to, in order to strengthen your connection with God, God is not going to be visible to your eye. I mean, God can come through all the physical things that you see in this world, but the phenomena of what God is like the composite. So it's like you're never going to really be able to like just see God, you know, see it, whatever it would be, right? And so that's why we would go through a year like this. Now, in the low vibrational time, so let's just keep going. So that's the situation that we're being presented with in 2025 for the Gemini full moon. This is what the Gemini full moon is just giving us pure, again, it's not even that it's giving us any clarity. Gemini really talks about the air quality, right? So it really is, Gemini doesn't, there's not really a lot of revelation with the air signs. The air, the atmosphere just is like, right? Like when you like if you, you know, like with SpongeBob, but like the bag of wind, when he like released the bag of wind, like it's like a bag of farts. Like if you jarred your fart and opened it up, it's like, we don't, like how the air escapes. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not really like we're spilling tea with, like a lot of these cycles are like, you're spilling tea with the Gemini moon, or like secrets are out. It's like, but secrets aren't even really secrets when it comes to air signs, because it's like the 8th house is on the plane of it's on the zodiacal pie. So it's like, it's not to air sign, it's like, it's all on the same dimension. It's not hidden. It's not like underground. The 8th house is just a slice of it, right? And so that's the aspects of that. Now, when we're talking about the karmic timeline, this is the part that I really wanted to bring a lot of clarity to all of you about. So it looks like so here's the problem. There is a karmic feminine, the karmic feminine, the feminine that is out of its divinity, which could be any of you finding your business. This feminine was this is like a wishful thinking. This is a feminine who, for example, and I was coming across people who were like really coming into my mind when I was channeling this, and I won't be super specific because like I don't need to like air people out. But the example here is like, you ever met like a feminine frequency or a woman or an energy where it's like, you know, they know what they need, right? They may need stability in a certain way. They may want a certain type of relationship. They may want a certain type of career sector, whatever, right? And this is the type of decision that you make where it's like, basically like, I just want the thing. This is someone who wants a ring on their finger, but doesn't want like they don't like, you ever hear a woman who like, I need to get married, or I'm ready to be married. But it's like, what do you, like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean by that? Because when we talk like that, we create verbal spells that take out divinity in the nucleus of the institution of marriage. You're only ever arriving at marriage after you've made it through cycles and cycles of proven truth in terms of a divine union. Like there is no like, there's never even like, I'm ready for a boyfriend. Mm-hmm. You'd be ready for like your mirror. You'd be ready for your part. You get what I'm saying? So there is this divine feminine frequency that's been going on. This is where there's like a huge judgment being called on this today, under this moon. For any feminine frequency that's like, I just want I want a thing, I don't want my thing. That's the issue. It's like when we remove the self, because again, these are feminines who've gouged out source, right? This is the original child abuser, right? The original manipulator. So it's like when we want husbands, when we want cars, when we want jobs, when we would just want the thing, right? And this has a lot to do with like influence culture. This has a lot to do with like media culture. This is like very deep how this is like, this mass manipulation has really been taking place. But this is a feminine who's like, I don't really care that it's my Two of Cups. I just want the Two of Cups. Like, I just want a partner. And it's like, when it's like, you heard people like in conversations like, I just want my man, or I just want a man, huh? Or I just want my shit. It's like, I mean, and then that's why your life turns out that way. So it's like, there's that toxic feminine who then in turn will go around, and because this feminine, I'm saying it starts with the woman, right? When we talk about the originator, the creator, the original principle would have been starting with the femininity. The masculine is what's created from that, though, right? Just in terms of like God is both of those principles, the wholeness of the principles. But I'm just saying in terms of the order of operations, in terms of like creating, that's what's happening. So it's like, if a feminine frequency, a toxic feminine frequency is operating under this, do you know what they're going to do? They're going to create sacrifices, because that means they don't care to check in with divinity for who's for them. So it's okay to be like, I feel like marriage is on my path or whatever. But then to say that like, I'm not interested in like learning about myself and like what is designed specifically for me, means that you're going to go out there and be serial dating, serial connecting, serial building with people based on basically loose change. Like, you know, this could be like 40 years of fucking slave. This could be like, you know, whatever. It doesn't even really matter. But it's like, then you go and you basically would be like sacrificing a random masculine, right? And you're going to be vibrationally aligned because you're both probably coming out of like your own toxicity, because but the issue here is that like you have to get connected back to God in order to get the blueprint of what you're supposed to do next. So the toxic feminine would go, and because they just want what they want, like, I just want money, I want clothes, I want a man, I want whatever, and they don't care about how that stuff is supposed to happen and manifest for them specifically, you're gonna go and create these contracts and bondages and low vibration with it. So then here's the nucleus. These two are crossing each other at this full moon, right? But the thing is like, whether you're karmic or in the divine timeline, if you're in the karmic timeline, you want what you want, and you're gonna just take someone who should be healing. You're gonna take the present moment of someone who should be focused on their self-healing and getting stronger in their spiritual truth, and you're now gonna become the three swords that they're in a tizzy. This is why there was a lot of stagnancy. A lot of 2025 was also like masculines they didn't move on anything, and it's because I can already tell you, most of them are in these partnerships where it's like they're finding out that like the feminine within them wanted something general, like, I'm just ready to be married, or I'm just like ready to be whatever. So it's like, if you want something general, you'll manifest something general. But this is where we talk, the Gemini new moon or full moon talks about the consequences on the other side of that are attached to the action of that. And so the other problem is like, it created this giant vortex of a collective third party energy that's actually just like made everything stall, because both of these, there's a still, I think a lot of astrologers do have it very right when they talk about the stillness of the Gemini full moon, because it's like the final, like, this is like the tie that binds. Like, this is like, we're really stuck, because I don't think you can get any more knotted in this frequency when it comes to like, because it's going to be news to you if you were someone who was asleep enough to not know, like, oh, there's a plan. Oh, like, we should have been map questing our way somewhere. We were just like guessing and stopping. If you didn't like know that, it's like definitely going to be like very judgment, because there was like, you know, the undertone of this was like a judgment day frequency. So under the full moon. Now, what manifests here's the divine masculine, right? So there was this big need of retrieval, and what was clarifying this was the Three of Cups. So the whole reason the masculine got tied into this like binding situation was because, unfortunately, embedded in this contract would be the masculine's own internal sense of their own value, which has to be recovered after the age of Pisces, because after we X out the feminine altogether and have her have no role, and then just have the masculine play both roles, and then do poorly at both, because one, the time is split, and then two, you weren't designed to do the other role as the feminine principle. It also means that you don't understand your own value. So then in the end, this is also where there were like financial abundance implications for the masculine. There was like things that are just tied up, like you're not as free moving, because this internal sense of your value, Page of Cups, is now being poured into something that is third party karmic, like that is now like not actually, it's not on your path. So it's like, it's not only just like wasted resources of your own ancestral abundance, it also is like, again, we talked about it, if you're needed in a specific timeline and you're over here doing something else, like your energy being invested in the thing that you have no business being over here doing does mean that the thing that needs your resources is not getting it. So there was this big journey where it's like all year if you're on a divine timeline, divine feminines, we're having to hold space because it was inevitable. You got to go back into the trenches to get yourself out of the trenches. This would be the divine masculine having to do that. High vibration or low vibration, doesn't matter, karmic or not. Because it's with the third party now. Like, they have your stuff. You know, it's the reason why my divine masculine had to go back to my parents' house. It's the reason, like, Dennis, because for us, those represent, like, certain, like, third party frequencies where it's like, yeah, but this is actually my union. Dennis is sitting right here. That's why I'm pointing to it. But, like, this is actually the union I'm in. This is actually my Two of Cups. This is where my life force energy is needed because it actually equally mirrors my whole truth. And yet, when I was unconscious and unaware and unclear about things and still like purging things out from my ancestry and my lineage, blah, 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 all at the same time, it became clear to me through the 2025 who and what is third party energy for me, not because they're a bad person, but because it would be karmic for me to be saying like, oh, my destiny is like pouring into my mom or pouring in. That's not really it's really just about what's on the blueprint for you. It's not really about like God being like, I don't like that person, so I don't want you. No. So anyways, then we go recent past. So the recent past that's unfortunate, and what was clarifying this was the Page of Swords. So in the recent past, the divine masculine, this is where I was going to say, there is a karmic feminine timeline that preyed on a masculine who's already in their kingdom, but was a Page of Wands, or Page of Swords, which means like they didn't know their full spiritual ranking, which is going to happen as karma for the patriarchy. So all masculines, the problem right now that we're all going through, myself included, is like, I don't realize how big Tethered Studios is. Like, I don't realize how big what I built is, right? Because of my wounding from the parts of me that are in the masculine paradigm and have contributed to a toxic masculine paradigm. So my karma now is that I have to bridge that, like, I was working subconsciously making it as big as it is, but because of my wounding and because of my attachments and because of my own third party frequencies, I don't really perceive how big people see me as. And that's my own journey. So many of you are going to understand that. But a lot of people are also being preyed upon by like very conscious toxic feminine frequencies who did go after you and knew in the recent past that you were this and that they were like, this is an opportunist. This is someone who's like, well, this is a king and I just